It's been 3 years now. 3 long years since I walked out of that house. And in that time, I've learned something painful. Something I wish I had understood sooner. Sometimes, the people we think will always be there, won't be. Sometimes, the love we take for granted, fades. And sometimes, we realize too late what we've lost. This is my story. Not a story of anger or revenge, but a story of regret. A story of lessons learned in silence. A story of a mother who loved too much, or perhaps not wisely enough. And a story of what happens when pride and hurt build walls where bridges should have been. I want to share it with you. Not because I want pity, but because maybe, just maybe, someone out there will hear my voice and choose differently. Maybe someone will hold on when I let go. Maybe someone will speak when I stayed silent, because the hardest truth I've learned is this: you don't know what you have until it's gone. And by the time you realize it, sometimes it's already too late. It's been 3 years now. 3 long years since I walked out of that house. And in that time, I've learned something painful. Something I wish I had understood sooner. Sometimes, the people we think will always be there, won't be. Sometimes, the love we take for granted, fades. And sometimes, we realize too late what we've lost. This is my story. Not a story of anger or revenge, but a story of regret. A story of lessons learned in silence. A story of a mother who loved too much, or perhaps not wisely enough. And a story of what happens when pride and hurt build walls where bridges should have been. I want to share it with you. Not because I want pity, but because maybe, just maybe, someone out there will hear my voice and choose differently. Maybe someone will hold on when I let go. Maybe someone will speak when I stayed silent, because the hardest truth I've learned is this: you don't know what you have until it's gone. And by the time you realize it, sometimes it's already too late. Let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Eleanor, but everyone called me Ellie. I raised my son, Daniel, on my own after my husband passed away when Daniel was only 7 years old. It was just the two of us for many years. I worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and to send him to a good school. I didn't have much, but I gave him everything I could. Daniel grew up to be a good man. Hardworking. Kind. Responsible. I was so proud of him. He became an engineer, got a steady job, and eventually met Sarah. Sarah was beautiful and smart. She came from a good family. When Daniel told me he wanted to marry her, I cried tears of joy. I thought, finally, my son will have the family he deserves. The family I couldn't give him after his father died. They got married on a warm spring day. I wore my best dress and stood beside my son, holding his hand before he walked down the aisle. He looked at me and said, "Mom, thank you for everything. I wouldn't be here without you." I kissed his cheek and told him I loved him. That moment felt perfect. Complete. Sarah and Daniel bought a small house after the wedding. It wasn't big, but it was cozy. They worked hard together, saving money, planning their future. I visited them often, bringing homemade meals and helping with little repairs around the house. I didn't want to intrude, but I wanted to be there. I wanted to be part of their life. At first, everything seemed fine. Sarah was polite. She smiled when I came over. She thanked me for the food. But I started noticing small things. Little moments of silence when I walked into a room. A hesitation before she answered my questions. A tightness around her eyes when I offered to help. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself that all new brides need time to adjust. After all, it's not easy having a mother-in-law around. I understood that. So I tried to give them space. I started visiting less. I called before coming over. I kept my visits short, but then Sarah got pregnant. When Daniel called to tell me, I cried again. I was going to be a grandmother. I couldn't believe it. I had dreamed of this moment for so long. I imagined holding a little baby in my arms, singing lullabies, watching Daniel become a father. It felt like life was coming full circle. I moved into their guest room. I tried my best to be helpful without being intrusive. I woke up early to prepare breakfast. I did laundry. I cleaned the kitchen. I held Emma when she cried so Sarah could sleep. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a good mother and grandmother, but the tension grew thicker. Day by day. Week by week. Sarah stopped talking to me as much. She would take Emma from my arms quickly, even when the baby was calm. She would redo things I had already done, folding the laundry again, rearranging the kitchen, changing Emma's clothes even though I had just dressed her. I felt it. That invisible wall between us. But I didn't know how to break it down. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So I tried harder. I cooked more meals. I cleaned more thoroughly. I offered more help. But the more I tried, the colder Sarah became. Daniel noticed too. I could see it. But he didn't say anything. He would come home from work tired, and I could see the weight on his shoulders. He loved his wife. He loved his mother. And he was stuck between us, not knowing how to fix it. I should have left then. I should have seen the signs and stepped back. But I didn't. I stayed. Because I thought love and persistence would win. I thought if I just kept showing up, kept helping, kept being there, things would get better. I thought I was needed. I was wrong. It started with small comments. One morning, I made scrambled eggs for breakfast. I had made them the way Daniel liked them since he was a child, soft, with a little butter and salt. I set the plate in front of Sarah with a smile. She looked at it, then looked at me. I don't eat eggs like this, she said quietly. I blinked, confused. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. How do you like them? She shook her head. It's fine. I'm not very hungry anyway. She pushed the plate aside and left the table. I sat there, staring at the uneaten eggs, feeling a strange heaviness in my chest. It was just eggs. I told myself it didn't matter. But it did. It felt like rejection. Small. Quiet. But real. Another day, I folded the laundry and put Sarah's clothes in her dresser. I thought I was helping. But when she came home and saw what I had done, her face changed. She didn't yell. She didn't even seem angry. Just, tired. Ellie, please don't go through my things, she said softly. I felt my cheeks flush. I was just trying to help. I didn't mean to, I know, she interrupted gently. But I'd prefer to do it myself. I nodded, feeling embarrassed. I had only wanted to help. But somehow, I had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. The moments piled up. Small things. Tiny misunderstandings. But they built on each other, brick by brick, until there was a wall I couldn't see over anymore. One evening, I was holding Emma in the living room, rocking her gently. She had been fussy all day, and I finally got her to calm down. I was humming a lullaby my mother used to sing to me. I felt peaceful. Connected. Like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Sarah walked in. She stopped when she saw me holding Emma. For a moment, she just stood there, watching. Then she walked over and took Emma from my arms without a word. Emma immediately started crying again. Sarah looked frustrated, bouncing the baby gently, trying to soothe her. She was just calming down, I said softly. Sarah didn't look at me. She needs to get used to me, not you, the word stung. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. What could I say? Sarah was her mother. Of course Emma needed her. But the way she said it, it felt like I was being pushed away. Like I didn't belong. I started spending more time in the guest room. I tried to stay out of the way. But the house was small, and it was hard to be invisible. Every time I came out to help, I felt like I was intruding. Every time I spoke, I felt like I was saying the wrong thing. Daniel tried to keep the peace. He would joke at dinner, trying to lighten the mood. He would ask me about my day, include me in conversations. But I could see the strain on his face. He was tired. Exhausted, even. And I knew I was part of the problem. One night, I overheard them talking in their bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I had just gone to the kitchen to get some water, and their door was slightly open. I heard Sarah's voice. Low and strained, I can't do this anymore, Daniel. Do what? Daniel sounded confused. Worried, this. Having your mother here all the time. I feel like I can't breathe in my own home, my heart sank. I stood frozen in the hallway, the glass of water trembling in my hand. She's just trying to help, Daniel said. I know, Sarah replied. But I don't need her help. I need space. I need to figure out how to be a mother without someone hovering over me all the time, judging everything I do. She's not judging you. It feels like she is, Sarah said, her voice breaking. Every time she redoes something I've done, every time she takes Emma from me, every time she makes a comment about how things should be done. It feels like she's saying I'm not good enough. I felt tears sting my eyes. That wasn't what I meant. That wasn't what I was trying to do. I was just trying to help. I was just trying to love them. I'll talk to her, Daniel said quietly. I don't want you to talk to her, Sarah said. I want her to leave. Silence. Long and heavy. She's my mom, Sarah, I know. And I'm not saying you can't see her. But she can't live here anymore. Please, Daniel. I need my home back. I need to be a mother to my daughter without feeling like I'm being watched and evaluated every second. I didn't wait to hear Daniel's response. I walked back to the guest room as quietly as I could, set the water on the nightstand, and sat on the bed. My chest felt tight. My eyes burned with unshed tears. I felt like I had been slapped. Not because Sarah was cruel, but because she was honest. And the truth hurt more than I could bear. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't realized. I thought I was helping. I thought I was needed. But all this time, I had been suffocating her. I had been taking over. I had been making her feel inadequate in her own home. How had I not seen it? I stayed awake that whole night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment in my mind. Every comment I had made. Every time I had taken Emma from Sarah's arms. Every time I had redone something she had done. I had thought I was being helpful. But I had been overbearing. Controlling, even. Without realizing it, the next morning, Daniel knocked on my door. He came in slowly, looking uncomfortable. He sat on the edge of the bed and didn't meet my eyes. "Mom, we need to talk," I nodded. I already knew what he was going to say. He sighed, rubbing his face with his hands. "Sarah is. She's struggling. And I think it might be better if you go back to your place for a while. Just until things settle down." Didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded. "Okay." Daniel looked surprised. Maybe he expected me to protest. To fight. But I didn't have the energy. And honestly, after hearing Sarah's words the night before, I understood. I didn't agree with everything. But I understood. "I'm sorry, Mom," Daniel said quietly. "I know you were just trying to help." I reached over and squeezed his hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. I understand. You need to take care of your family." He looked at me then, and I saw tears in his eyes. "You're my family too," I smiled, even though my heart was breaking. "I know. But Sarah and Emma come first now." "That's how it should be." We hugged. A long, tight hug. And for a moment, I felt like I had my little boy back in my arms. But then he pulled away, and he was a man again. A husband. A father. With responsibilities I couldn't be part of anymore. I packed my things that afternoon. It didn't take long. I hadn't brought much with me in the first place. Just some clothes, a few books, and a picture of Daniel as a child. I folded everything neatly, placed it in my suitcase, and zipped it closed. The sound felt final. Like a door closing. Sarah was in the nursery with Emma. She didn't come out to say goodbye. I didn't expect her to. Part of me wanted to knock on the door, to say something, to apologize. But I didn't know what to say. And I didn't want to make things worse. Daniel carried my suitcase to the car. The air between us was heavy with unspoken words. He put the suitcase in the trunk, then stood there awkwardly, hands in his pockets. Staring at the ground. "I'll call you, Mom," he said. "We'll visit." I nodded. Of course, but even as I said it, I felt a strange certainty that things would never be the same. This wasn't just a temporary break. This was a shift. A change. Something had broken, and I didn't know if it could be fixed. I hugged Daniel one more time, kissed his cheek, and got into the car. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. Daniel stood in the driveway, watching me leave. He lifted his hand in a small wave. I waved back, even though I could barely see him through my tears. I went back to my small apartment across town. It felt empty. Cold. I had spent so much time at Daniel and Sarah's house that my own place felt unfamiliar. I set my suitcase down, looked around, and felt a wave of loneliness crash over me. This was my life now. Alone again. Just like after my husband died. Except this time, it felt different. This time, I had chosen to leave. Or at least, I hadn't fought to stay. The days turned into weeks. Daniel called me once in a while. Short, polite conversations. "How are you, Mom?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." "How's Emma?" "She's good. Growing so fast." "That's wonderful." Silence. "I'll call you again soon." "Okay. I love you." "Love you too, Mom." The calls felt hollow. Like we were both reading from a script. I wanted to ask him if he missed me. I wanted to ask if Sarah was happy now that I was gone. I wanted to ask if they ever talked about me. But I didn't. I just smiled through the phone and pretended everything was fine. I tried to fill my days. I volunteered at the local library. I joined a knitting group. I took long walks in the park. But nothing felt right. Nothing filled the emptiness inside me. I missed my son. I missed my granddaughter. I missed being part of their life, but more than that, I missed feeling needed. I missed having a purpose. For so long, my purpose had been Daniel. Raising him. Supporting him. And then, for a brief, beautiful moment, my purpose had been helping with Emma. But now, that was gone. And I didn't know who I was without it. Months passed. Daniel's calls became less frequent. Once a week. Then once every 2 weeks. Then once a month. I told myself he was busy. New parents are always busy. But deep down, I knew. The distance between us was growing. And I didn't know how to close it. One day, I decided to visit. I didn't call ahead. I just got in my car and drove to their house. I told myself I just wanted to see Emma. Just for a little while. Just to make sure she remembered me. The months after that visit were the hardest of my life. I stopped calling as much. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to intrude. So I waited. I waited for Daniel to call me. I waited for invitations to visit. I waited for pictures of Emma. But they came less and less. Daniel sent me a photo once in a while. Emma's first steps. Emma's first birthday. Little milestones I should have been there for. But I wasn't. I saw them through a screen, like a stranger watching from the outside. I started to wonder if they even thought about me. If they missed me. Or if life was just easier without me. The thought made me feel hollow. Invisible. Like I was fading away. One night, I sat alone in my apartment. Looking at old photos of Daniel as a child. His gap-toothed smile. His messy hair. His arms around my neck. I remembered the way he used to run to me after school, excited to tell me about his day. I remembered the way he used to hold my hand when we crossed the street. I remembered the way he used to say, "I love you, Mama," every single night before bed. When had that changed? When had I stopped being his whole world? I knew the answer, of course. It's natural. Children grow up. They build their own lives. They don't need their mothers the way they used to. But knowing that didn't make it hurt less. I realized something that night, sitting alone in the dim light of my living room. I had spent so much of my life being a mother that I had forgotten how to be anything else. I had tied my identity so completely to Daniel that when he didn't need me anymore, I didn't know who I was, and that wasn't fair. Not to him. And not to me. I started seeing a therapist. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't tell anyone. I just went, week after week, and I talked. I talked about my loneliness. I talked about my regrets. I talked about my fear of being forgotten. And slowly, painfully, I started to understand. I had been trying to fill a void in my life by being indispensable to Daniel and Sarah. I had been trying to prove my worth by being needed. But in doing so, I had made them feel suffocated. I had made them feel like they couldn't do anything without me. And that wasn't love. That was control. It took me a long time to accept that. To admit that I had been wrong. Not wrong to love them. But wrong in how I showed it. I started to build a life for myself. A real life. Not one that revolved around Daniel. I took a painting class. I made new friends. I traveled a little, taking small trips to places I had always wanted to see. I learned to be alone without being lonely. It wasn't easy. There were days when I still felt that ache. That longing to be part of Daniel's life again. But I also started to feel something else. Peace. A quiet, gentle peace that came from letting go. I wrote Daniel a letter. I didn't send it at first. I just wrote it, pouring out everything I felt. Everything I wished I had said. I apologized for overstepping. I apologized for making Sarah feel inadequate. I apologized for not seeing what I was doing until it was too late. And I told him that I loved him. That I would always love him. But that I understood now that love means giving space. Love means trusting. Love means letting go. I read the letter over and over. And then, one day, I put it in an envelope and mailed it. I didn't expect a response. But a week later, Daniel called. "Mom," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I got your letter." I held my breath. "I meant every word." "I know," he said. "And I'm sorry too. I should have talked to you more. I should have been honest with you instead of just pulling away. I thought it would be easier, but it wasn't. I missed you, Mom." Tears streamed down my face. "I missed you too, sweetheart." We talked for a long time that night. Really talked. Not the scripted, polite conversations we had been having. But real, honest conversation. I told him about my therapy. About what I had learned, about how I was trying to change. He told me about the struggles of being a new parent, about the guilt he felt for pushing me away, about how much Emma was growing. "I want you in her life, Mom," he said. "But it has to be different. It has to be on our terms. Do you understand?" "I do," I said. "And I'll respect that. I promise." We started slow. I visited once a month. Short visits. I didn't offer to help unless they asked. I didn't criticize or give unsolicited advice. I just showed up. I played with Emma. I listened to Daniel and Sarah talk about their life. I was present, but not overbearing, and slowly, things started to heal. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments. Still times when I had to bite my tongue to keep from offering my opinion. But I did it. Because I had learned. I had learned that love isn't about control. It's about respect. It's about boundaries. It's about letting the people you love live their own lives, even when it's hard to watch from the sidelines. One afternoon, Sarah and I were sitting on the porch while Emma played in the yard. It was a warm day, and the sun was shining through the trees. Sarah turned to me and said, "Thank you, Ellie." I looked at her, surprised. "For what?" "For respecting our space," she said. "I know it hasn't been easy for you. But it means a lot. You're a wonderful grandmother. Emma is lucky to have you." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. "That means more than you know." We sat in comfortable silence after that, watching Emma chase butterflies. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged. Not at the center of their life, but as part of it. A welcome, respected part. It's been 3 years since I left that house, 3 years since I packed my bags and walked out. 3 years since I thought I had lost everything. And in some ways, I did lose something. I lost the closeness I once had with Daniel. I lost the daily presence in Emma's life. I lost the sense of being needed in the way I used to be, but I gained something too. I gained perspective. I gained independence. I gained a deeper, healthier kind of love. The kind that isn't possessive. The kind that isn't dependent. The kind that says, I love you, and because I love you, I will give you the space to grow. Emma is 4 now. She knows me. She calls me grandma and runs to me when I visit. She shows me her drawings and tells me stories. And every time I see her, I feel grateful. Grateful for the second chance. Grateful that I learned before it was truly too late. Daniel and I talk often now. Not every day. But regularly. And when we talk, it's real. It's honest. He tells me about his struggles, and I listen without trying to fix everything. He asks for my advice sometimes, and I give it gently, without pushing. We've found a new rhythm. A new way of being mother and son. Sarah and I have built a respectful relationship. We're not best friends. But we're kind to each other. We appreciate each other. And that's enough. I've learned that life is full of seasons. There was a season when Daniel needed me every day. When I was his whole world. And then there was a season when he needed to build his own world, and I had to step back. And now, we're in a new season. One where I'm part of his life, but not the whole of it. And that's okay. It's more than okay. It's how it should be. If I could go back, would I do things differently? Yes. I would have listened more. I would have asked instead of assuming. I would have respected boundaries instead of pushing through them. I would have given space instead of filling every silence with my presence, but I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is learn. And grow. And try to do better moving forward. I think about the day I left that house. The day Sarah told me to go and I smiled instead of crying. I thought I was being strong. But really, I was just protecting myself from the pain of the truth. The truth that I had become too much. That my love, though genuine, had become suffocating. I don't smile about it anymore. But I don't cry either. I've made peace with it. I've made peace with my mistakes. And I've made peace with the fact that love is complicated. It's messy. It's imperfect. But it's also resilient. It can bend without breaking. It can change without disappearing. I realized too late what I lost. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some lessons can only be learned in hindsight. Maybe some losses are necessary for growth. Maybe realizing too late is still better than never realizing at all. And that's okay. It's more than okay. It's how it should be. If I could go back, would I do things differently? Yes. I would have listened more. I would have asked instead of assuming. I would have respected boundaries instead of pushing through them. I would have given space instead of filling every silence with my presence, but I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is learn. And grow. And try to do better moving forward. I think about the day I left that house. The day Sarah told me to go and I smiled instead of crying. I thought I was being strong. But really, I was just protecting myself from the pain of the truth. The truth that I had become too much. That my love, though genuine, had become suffocating. I don't smile about it anymore. But I don't cry either. I've made peace with it. I've made peace with my mistakes. And I've made peace with the fact that love is complicated. It's messy. It's imperfect. But it's also resilient. It can bend without breaking. It can change without disappearing. I realized too late what I lost. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some lessons can only be learned in hindsight. Maybe some losses are necessary for growth. Maybe realizing too late is still better than never realizing at all.